and we're here in the garage to do this episode because I was like, oh, you know what? Let's let me move closer here so that I can feel more comfortable. So today, move this out of the way. So today we're going to be talking about some coffee. Yeah. So if you remember on Friday, how's it going? This, by the way, if you're just joining for the very first time, this is Kent and Kona. I'm a little bit far from the screen this time, so it's a little bit harder for me to see, but aloha to you and both. And we are, so Friday, okay, so this is the Coffee Q&A, your daily dose of coffee Q&A here on the OnoCoffee channel. I'm your host. We do this most Monday through Fridays, 10 a.m. Eastern time. So, you know, if you have a question about coffee or want to talk about coffee, let me know. And so remember, if you remember back on Friday, we were up in Pennsylvania where I went to a place called Hearn Hardwoods to go get some koa pieces. And the idea was to go and get some pieces of koa, right? So for example, you know, they sell things like these. These are offcuts that they sell for like $4 a pound. So you just buy whatever you want and, you know, you can get these offcuts. Mom, good morning to you. So you can see it's kind of got some nice figuring, right? That was kind of my idea. I'll go get some pieces. And what I did before is I grabbed, during a previous trip, I went and picked up, where is it? Oh, it's over there. I picked up a piece of koa that I really thought was attractive. So if this, you can see it here, this is the piece. It's relatively thin. I have laminated it onto a piece of hard maple. Because I was going to build I'm planning to build a table with it and just use this as an accent on the piece. So I went to get some more, and that's why I was up there. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. Mom, how are you? Good to see you. And, well, we'll get into that more. But first, let's make some coffee because, you know, it is coffee day. So I've got my little coffee kit here. I showed you Matt's kit last week. Mine is still kind of in transition. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do. But I do have this little kit here, and I kind of keep some things, cigars, for example. What else we have? We've got a heater. I put the AeroPress in here with the pour lex. But today we're not going to use any of that. We're just going to use the AeroPress. What else we need? We're going to need some filters. We got a little brewing kit here. And I do have some Kona Typica. Oh, it's not ground. Gosh, I thought it was ground. So it's not ground. That's a oh, this is the ground stuff. Okay, so that means I do have to grind, which does not make me happy. Does not make me happy. I don't know if there's how many comments are. Let's see. Oh, am I missing? Mom, good. I saw you. Keone. Ah, nice curl. Oh yeah, the curl on this piece. I was really in love with. I was like, oh, I mean, it was just this one piece. It cost me like, I don't know, like $3 or something like that, because it was less than a pound. And I was like, oh, that's pretty epic. The idea is that maybe I'll make a table similar to this one, right? This table here, and then use hard maple around it and just do something across it. So it'll be very light except for this stripe, right? That's kind of the idea behind it. All right, so let's get our stuff together. We're gonna need to grind a little bit. Now this Kona Typica, it says Kona Typica, you know what, I don't know. I haven't since lost the identity of where the coffee came from, so I don't recall anymore. But we're just gonna pour some coffee in here, and we're gonna grind it fresh. Now this coffee, honestly, this coffee is kind of old. I don't even know. I might have gotten it as a sample from leftovers that they had at the SCA show, you know, from the Hawaii Coffee Association booth. And that would be more than 2 years ago, probably, because, yeah, I have no idea. Oh. Hayabusa says, I can't see any Milwaukee. Oh, yeah. My brother is the Milwaukee guy. I have always been traditionally more of a DeWalt person. right? Like chainsaws and things like that. But the only red thing that I have actually is this. I got this recently. This is a Skill 12-volt drill, and it was $40 on discount at Lowe's, and I was like, oh, that's. Well, every time I played with it on the display, like I was always kind of impressed at the power that these had, and so I was like, oh, you know what? And I was like, not that I needed one, but I was like, you know what? Let me maybe I'll make a video about it. Power plant says, use the Prolex mill when you started making coffee. I have to go fast because, you know, the way that when I'm doing it like this. Okay, so when we're doing vertically, your messages come at the bottom of the screen and they kind of stack and they never disappear. But when we're doing horizontal, they'll pop up like a little window, stack a little bit, and then they'll eventually drop away unless I reach over to tap the screen. Cole used to be affordable back in the day, right out of high school. I made a oh gosh. Let's see again. I made a full Koa Cal King. Oh, good Lord. Because the materials was cheaper than a ready-made. Oh, wow, that's epic. Like if you have that, that's like worth probably $10,000 today. Power plant says, I used to use a Prolex mill when I started making coffee. They still used the hex nut for the handle. I think I went through oh, you went through, really? I have not, well, I was going to say, you know, really, I've not had any problems, but you know what? I hardly ever grind by hand. I had just presumed, and actually I wasn't going to do it today. I had just presumed that this Kona was more like this, already pre-ground, and I wasn't going to have to grind. And now that we're live, and I'm faced with not having, you know, I'm faced with a whole bean, I'm kind of locked in and don't really have a choice. But had I actually did more planning and actually inspected the inventory prior to the beginning, I would have taken it in the grinder. I would have just put it in the grinder. But like I was saying, this skill was pretty good. It was pretty good. I was putting together a cabinet the other day using this Skill 12-volt to insert these longer, like 3-inch screws into this particle board. You know, basically putting together these IKEA furniture things, and it did fairly decently. But there was a point driving those 3-inch screws into this particle board where it just wouldn't go any further. It just wouldn't. And you kind of think that, oh, maybe I need to get, you know, it's 12 volt. You know, if you had 18 volt, it would be so much easier. But I grabbed my 12 volt Festool, and that just made it really easy. So but I was really curious to see like how much limitation does this tool have, because it's such a nice price. And I have to say, I bought this, and I also previously bought this Skill router, and you know, for the price, they're kind of surprising. Naomi, good morning to you. Good to see you. All right, so we got our coffee ground. We're gonna put it here in our AeroPress. I don't know. I just filled it up. I don't know how much. It should be enough, right? It should be enough. This is the thing when you're like, if I'm out somewhere. I put this kit together because I was thinking I was going to do a video while I was at the Nakashima Woodworkers compound, but it was raining and there wasn't any real opportunity to do that. So I never used it, and but I'm not. But like I'm saying, when I'm traveling or doing something like this, or kind of more on the fly, I tend, you know, this will hold enough coffee. You could grind more. You know, I like to pour Lex, but let me be honest. But here's the thing. So but it goes back. This goes in hand with what I'm about to say about the quantity of coffee that I'm using. if I'm traveling and I'm making coffee on the road, you know, I'm very okay with taking a hit in quality areas. Oh, and Porlex has a new burst set available. Ah, nice. Nice, nice. Is there also, I presume it's also going to be ceramic? But you know, so like for example, I know people don't like the Porlex. I like the Porlex because it's compact and it's simple to use. But like I'm saying, if I'm traveling, I'm willing to make compromises, or I'm okay with having compromises to my coffee. So George says, "Good morning. What did I miss? Is this the coffee from the Obra?" No, no. The Obra's the Rusty's family is in Ka'u. And it also ceramic, says Craig, supposedly better. Ah, okay. So Rusty's family's in Ka'u, and if you're familiar with the Big Island is this kind of somewhat oval, right? Somewhat kind of elongated. But basically, Kona is to the west, which is for you here on this side, where Ka'u is down here in the southern part of the island. Different districts. I tend to think Ka'u is better, but that's because I buy Rusty's mom's coffee, and her coffee is exquisitely produced. So it's not necessarily, you know, I will say that Ka'u is better than Kona, but the truth is that it always depends on the actual producer that's cultivating the coffee. Like, there are beautiful coffees being produced in Kona, of course. One place that comes to mind is a place called Hula Daddy's. I've been to their farm, and they produce beautiful coffees. But it's also, you know, you're not getting cut rate Kona at And Kyo says, I think Hawaii coffees get a bad rap. I mean, it gets a bad rap not because not. I think Kona gets a bad rap not because necessarily the quality, but because of the price that Kona demands, right? Meaning that, like, you always pay a premium to have Kona coffee, but the premium, but with a lot of coffee aficionados, the premium that you're paying for the Kona doesn't necessarily translate into the equivalency of that paid price in the cup compared to other producing nations, right? Because, well, like we touched about yesterday, I think that the rate, you know, you're paying a Kona picker, a picker that comes to Kona, and there's migrant workers in Kona, right? They'll come to Hawaii from who knows where. They come to Hawaii to work, but in order for people to be in Hawaii to pick and work, they got to be paid American wages. And even if you're paying $15 a pound or $15 an hour to pick coffee, I mean, they're gonna, let's say they work for 8 hours, right? $15 a pound, $15 an hour, you know, you're over $100 a day. So compare that to other nations, developing nations, where you know, the workers are being paid by the arroba, by how much they're picking, and they're getting, you know, maybe $40 to $50 a day. So that that's a big disparity, and you know, and then of course, cost of production in America is so much higher. Just general fertilizers and everything about it. You're in Hawaii, one of the most isolated parts of the world, with a whole shipping system that is, you know, that the islands are beholden to because of the laws that we have in the United States. So there's a lot of things that are at play in Kona that just force the price up, and so a lot of people are upset, or a lot of people find that it's not the greatest coffee because, you know, oh, you know, it costs so much. But you know, if you look at the cup quality, it may not be as great, and a lot of that goes back to, you know, how they cultivate it, and as you may have already known, you know, everything matters, right? Not just like the placement or the selection of the coffee variety, to the place on the farm, the little biome that's happening right around that tree, to the way that they, you know, exposure to sun and wind and all of that, and then how they manage the crop itself, and when do they harvest? How do they harvest? How do they process it? Are they processing the coffee right away? Are they doing all the best practices in order to produce the highest quality coffee? And just like any region of the world, not all producers do all of that to the highest degree. So even in Kona, you've got, good quality. It's solid quality coffee. Like George mentioned the video. So I have a video that I shot when I was at Greenwell Farms. Greenwell Farms in Kona is one of the big producers of Kona coffee in the state. Oh, no, there it goes. You guys write these good sized posts, and I'm like, oh, I need to try to read it quickly. Okay, let's see here. I'm also at the point now where I'm like so close. Well, this is actually close enough that I have to wear reading glasses now. So the issues with the old storied provenances like Blue Mountain and Kona is their name value was higher than their beans. It became a race to just produce plants around the areas with no yes. I mean, and I think there is truth to that. There's definitely truth to that. But you can go to these regions and find, well, I don't know about Blue Mountain, but definitely in Kona there are producers that are producing really pretty coffees. Unfortunately, they're not going to be the price of the Greenwell, right? So the Greenwell buys coffee. They're buying cherries from a lot of the farmers in the area. So at one point in time, when I actually knew the statistic within a reasonable time frame, this is now from like maybe 15, 20 years ago, but at the time there were like 629 farmers producing coffee in the Kona district. And like again, in many parts of the world, these are smallholder farmers that are just producing a little bit, maybe for fun. Maybe they're gentleman farmers. Maybe they're retired guys from California, Silicon Valley, or whatever. Like one of the guys I bought from was that person. And, they have different levels of commitment to how they're processed. But a lot of them will just harvest the coffee, bring it to Greenwell, sell it to them for 90 cents a pound for the cherries. And that's it. They're done. And then Greenwell worries about everything else. And so you get Greenwell, and they produce a decent quality Kona. And I know people will look at it and say, oh, it's very expensive, but it costs a lot, right? It costs a lot to produce in that. And Dev's here. What's up, Dev? Being in the coffee industry, I think Kona is good, but definitely overrated. I'm a firm believer that Hawaii can't bring in grow African coffee because it will affect the Kona coffee. You mean that they can't bring in African varietals? I mean, I think I can't see why. I would. Speaking of that, I wonder. Like, let's say, like if we think about some of the crops, let's say like, I don't know, SL28, SL34, things like that. These varietals, I wonder, I don't know if anyone's cultivating this, but do they prevent people from bringing those in? I don't know. I'm curious. Then I have to call one of my friends and ask them about that, because I wonder if those might be some interesting varietals to try. But like I'm saying, so I think that the Kona, it's a lot of the reason that it's so expensive is because we're in America, and America costs more to produce anything. Even when it's not necessarily, like if you're paying $30, $40, $50 a pound for Kona, like if you were to buy a equivalent price coffee from most anywhere else in the world, you would expect that coffee to have very strong and noticeable characteristics that would be very distinct. Whereas, a lot of coffee you get from Kona is kind of soft. A little bit sweet, a little bit soft, hopefully clean, maybe not always clean. Like one of the worst Konas I ever had was at a coffee shop in Hilo. I was in Hilo one year, this is quite a few years ago, and I remember I saw this sign on this drive-through at this little coffee shop in Hilo, and they were like, Kona coffee, $2. I was like, Kona coffee, $2? What? How is that even possible? And you know, you order it, and man, it is terrible. Like, it's the worst Kona coffee you've ever had. Like, it's dirty, it's just defect ridden. You're just like, oh my gosh, this is like, this is truly, truly difficult coffee. Kyoto says, Maui Koei Molokai and Oahu have been growing coffee. Oh, yes, yes. When I first started in the coffee business, I was doing a company, I started doing a shave ice business, right, called J Shave Ice. And after a while, we ended up having to think about maybe making coffee as part of our menu, because we ended up with a location that we had to pay rent year round rather than the summer times, as snowball type businesses here in Maryland tend to operate. So I was like, well, how do we make money during the winter? And let's do coffee. And because we were a Hawaiian focused shave ice business, the natural progression was to go to Hawaiian coffees. And so I ended up going out, meeting farmers, meeting producers, and then buying coffee from all the islands you mentioned. Molokai, not Maui. Maui at the time I didn't really have any connections there, but we bought Kona from Pele Plantations, and we went to Molokai Coffee, we went to Kauai Coffee, and then since I had lived in Honolulu, I always liked Lion coffee, even though it's, you know, whatever Lion really is. But, you know, I was like, let's drink Lion. So let's pour the AeroPress in. We'll pour a little bit and use the stir just to hydrate everything. 30 seconds. Now I'm going to pour the rest. Oh, you know what I didn't prepare? I did not prepare our filter. Lock that on. Got our mug here. So I'm waiting about 35 seconds for the steeping to happen, and then we're going to press. We do a lot shorter because, you know, it is, I mean, typically I'm stirring this. I didn't stir this time. But we're doing it shorter because, you know, we get a little more extraction because of the pressurization of the brew. So we're going to now press down. And here's the thing, I've always seen like baristas, and they're all like giving their all. They're like mashing down on it. You don't have to mash it down. Just give light pressure. It's always about finesse, right? Finesse. And then you hear this hiss. Yeah, there you go. Once the liquid has been pressed out of it, there's still a gap, right, between the top of the coffee bed and the bottom of the plunger. So there's always that little hiss. And once you start to hear that hiss, you know that you've pretty much pressed everything on. Here's one of the tips that I always try to remember for people. For whatever reason, the design of the AeroPress means that it's flat, and if you just take it off, you drip all over you, and you could scald yourself a little bit. So always take your AeroPress, tilt it a little bit. Well, we talked a lot now. And whatever residual brewed coffee will then drip off into your cup, right? Now, this is a small brewer. So, and this is a 12-ounce cup, and typically we'll ratio it so that we have 12 ounces of coffee. I'm going to taste it this way. We have about maybe 6 ounces. I'm going to add a little bit more. All right, so maybe not the greatest of Konas that I've ever had. But that could also be due to the fact that it's probably 2 or 3, 4 years old. Could be older. Could be older. I don't know. A bit nutty. A bit nutty. Definitely not the typical Kona. But the Kona, like I was saying, the Kona, I think can be very good. But I do agree that I hear you when you say that, you know, it's a bit maligned and it's not as good as other regions, and it's not as good as other regions in a general scale. Okay, so why are we doing this Kona coffee? Because, you know, Kona's from the Big Island, and like I said, I was at Greenwell Farms the other day, and I was buying I went there to buy I wanted to buy this pieces like this. Well, the guy's like, hey man, if you want to see the other Kona, the other Koa woods, they're over there. And I was like, oh, okay, I'll go look. Now, Koa is super expensive, right? Perhaps it's also more akin to oxidized nut. Could be, yeah, probably more oxidized nuts. You know, I think a lot, I mean, it's not, so there's no, it's not defect ridden. It's not dirty like it had CBB. I think it's just old. It's just old. Yeah. Not terribly, not offensive, just not like, oh, this is delicious. I mean, this is the most amazing coffee I've ever had. It's not that. It's not that. But you know, it's one of those things where, like, I think a lot of people that go to Hawaii, okay, it's not as bad as oxidized walnuts. So I've had, hey, we won't go into that. No. Let me know if we are rolling again. Yes, no, maybe. No sound now? No sound? Good now, we're back. Okay, good. I was gonna have to try to walk over there again and do some typing. All right, so what was I saying? So, but I think that people come to Hawaii and they have this coffee, but they're having an amazing vacation, and it's like, oh, this is the greatest coffee in the world. And it may just be very decent, plain, simple, sweet coffee that's relatively, you know, smooth and enjoyable, but not necessarily the greatest coffee in the world. But they love it. And that's all right. I think that's all right. Kerry says, looking forward to going to Hilo to pick up a mug from Ken's Pancake House. Oh, gosh, yeah, Ken's. But I gotta say, as much as I like Ken's Pancake House, for me, original Pancake House in Dillingham with the macadamia pancakes, oh, that's my stuff. That's my stuff. So, like I was saying, so I was at Hearn Hardwoods, and the guy says, oh yeah, take a look at this. And koa wood, which is from the acacia family of trees, is indigenous to Hawaii. You can only get it there, and it's very luxuriant looking wood. It's beautiful. It's got great grain, great color, great. When it has curling, it has beautiful figuring. But because it's so rare, it's also pretty wildly expensive, right? Like it costs quite a bit. Like here at Hearn, I think it costs like $28 to $40 a board foot. And if you're thinking about board feet, basically, if you can think about 1 square foot that is 1 inch thick, that's essentially a board foot, and you can calculate that depending on the size. But it comparatively, I can get walnut, really nice quality walnut from my local guy for $6 a board foot. So 28 to 45 is a pretty big jump. Keone says you have to try the banana pancake from Hannah's and Waianae. Oh, okay. I should go soon. Like today, because I'm kind of hungry. So I'm looking around, and you know, it's these, you know, the boards are wildly expensive. $300, $400, $500, $800. Dev says I felt the same way about Kauai Coffee Company. I don't think the coffee. I mean, Kauai Coffee. If you've ever had the chance to visit Kauai Coffee, it's a very different operation, right? The guys who built Kauai Coffee, the corporation that built it, really went and looked at how they do large-scale production in Brazil. And they basically modeled their operations off of Brazil because they had the land. They've got the land. They've got the flat land that they can use. And Dev says, oh yeah, time to check out that. Yeah, go check that out. Let us know what you think about that. You should go there after work today and let us know. But so if you're familiar with how they do some large-scale production in Brazil, they have these big fields where they've laid out the trees in wide rows because they're using modified blueberry harvesters to harvest the coffee. And what these are basically like these like, you know, kind of machines that roll down, they're kind of shaped like this, that roll down the rows, and they've got these like big long stick fingers that they run that rush that the tree is here, right, and it rushes around the tree, and the fingers shake the leaves, and the more ripe stuff falls off and into a bin, and then it's contained. So it's very large scale production. So Kauai coffee doesn't really, they're not geared to produce like Rusty's Hawaiian Ka'u style, right? They're not geared for that. They're really geared for large scale production. So that's one thing to bear in mind as you try Kauai coffee. It is from Kauai, and it's going to be a nice, soft, sweet coffee. Not We did buy some of them years ago because I met a guy named Marty Amaro who used to run their operations. I think he's left them. And one trip I was up in Kauai to go visit, and he took me on a grand tour of everything. So I really got to see it all. It was pretty, from a operations standpoint, it's pretty amazing. But it is what it is. Okay, so as I'm walking around, right, I'm looking around and I'm like, man, the pieces of wood are pretty expensive. Like I can't really even think about it. But then I see this one piece of wood that's somewhat affordable. And I was like, man, that would be, and I kind of find myself, this is true when I look at coffees or wood or whatever it may be. Like I kind of get into this whole idea of I feel it. Like I want to feel it. I want to feel emotional connection to something, right? Like for example, one day we were down in Costa Rica at Helser de Zarcero, which is a producer in the Central Valley, and we're walking around, and with Efren and we're just looking at the drying patios, right? And he shows me this one coffee they're processing, and it looks pretty, and I take a smell of it, man, and it had this beautiful mango aroma. Like I was just like, oh my gosh, this is like so beautiful. And I said to him, I said, I want this coffee right here. Like I want you to. Has this been spoken for? No, it's not spoken for. I want this coffee. This coffee in this lot. This is what I want to buy. And I like that, right? Or I get swept away by that. So I'm looking at this stuff and I find this. Oh! So this is a small slab of Koa from the Big Island, and it's kind of one of these end pieces. There's a lot of, see, you can see the difference in color here. There's a darker color and a lighter color. The lighter color is what's called the sapwood, and the sapwood is a younger wood. It's the outer shell. So this was probably like this. No, that's not right because there's the grain. So somehow it was, I don't know exactly how it was on the tree, but it looked kind of interesting. So this is the one side, and then this is the other side. So it's not, so it's a lot more of the sapwood. This does not look as pretty to me as this side. And but why would I be interested? And you can see the price, right? Like that's kind of crazy, right? But I saw the shape, and I was thinking, like, here's the side profile, right? I was thinking that this size, this shape, this thickness might make for a really nice end table. And so I was like, oh, especially this, I like this figuring down here, right? And then there's a little bit of a knot, this void. I like these weird kind of figures. Like one of my good friends, he's always like, well, like with the chair that I built that had I put the split in the chair, and he was like, well, aren't you going to fill that? I was like, no. Why'd you choose that piece? And some people love clear wood where there's no, it's just straight grain, and I can appreciate that, but I'm not really. I love this. Like this is what I think is super exciting. Let me go back here. Power plant says very cheerful. We don't want to yuck people's yum, right? Kona says mocha and short stack banana pancake. Oh God. One of Jason Momoa's and Nicole Scherzinger's favorite place to go in Hawaii. Oh wow. Paige, oh, it says beautiful. Yeah, it's lovely, lovely. Looks like and a belly button. Looks like the crotchwood where it branches out from the. I think you're right about that. I do think you're right about that. Oh yeah, that sounds. Yeah, you should go. You should definitely go check it out. So I think that this would be nice. And so I was thinking about, okay, what can I look for in the pile? Okay, so I can buy. Okay, if I bought this, I will have burned most of my budget. But what I need is a way to stand it up, right? So I was like, okay, well, what am I going to use for the base? And I kind of want not a waterfall, but like a vertical piece, and then another piece here, right? And I was thinking, okay, let me go back to the cut pile and see if I can stack together a bunch of pieces that I can join later. And I started putting this stack together, and I was like, that's going to cost a lot of money. It's like, I don't know if I want to spend that. So as I'm looking around, I see this one piece that I pull out of their pile, and it looks like this. And it's cut just like this. So evidently there's this void here that whatever those guys were doing at the mill, they didn't want this piece. But I was like, that looks kind of interesting, right? This, if I can, carve that out, I think that might make for a visually interesting piece. So I'm thinking right now that it will go somewhere here on the other side, right? Like this, or maybe like that, right? And then I was going to build these pieces together, but then I just grabbed this one piece because I thought this had interesting figuring. And what I'm thinking about, and I was thinking, okay, I can, maybe I'll, like I'm planning to do for the table with the accent in the middle, I'm going to use this as an accent and use the same kind of coloring where we use mostly hard maple or a maple of a really white maple, right? And I'll just put them all together. So I was like, well, now, so I bought these and I took them home and I was like, man, now I've got to find maple slabs because, these are good. This is 2 inches. So, and this is like 3 inches, right? But we're going to cut it down to 2 inches so that it'll match. Keone says you could put resin in there. I could put resin, but I don't, I'm not a big fan of resins, to be honest with you. Like, I want to hit it with just tongue oil and let the grain just kind of like show, like just let it celebrate itself. Like, for example, this table I made out of cherry wood. The idea, well, it's not for 3 or 4. So, well, that's just the cherry wood. So as you can see here, there's some good figuring because this is old growth cherry from my miller's farm, not too far away. But did not look, when I first coated this with the tongue oil, it did not have that much depth in its wood, in the figuring or in the grain. It's just developed over time. So I kind of like that a lot. And I made a mental note of what Paige said, and now I can't remember. 3 or 4 legs. No, just actually, in some ways, just 2. So the idea is to create another slab that will go here and span the 2 feet across with this kind of an accent, maybe in the center, maybe offset somehow. But I need to get the matching maple, right? This kind of color. I like this contrast of colors, right? But they're contrasty, but they're not like too dramatic, right? Like if I did walnut, right? Like this cutting board's a good example, right? You can see there's walnut and maple. They're very contrasty. I don't necessarily want it to be that contrasty, just, a little bit contrasty. But the idea is that it's going to be a big slab here, but I didn't have the maple, so I had to like go on Facebook and I'm looking online and saying, hey, who's got slab, because what I don't want to do is I don't want to buy an 8 foot or 6 foot slab that's going to cost whatever it's going to cost. And I was like, I only need like 24 inches at the most. Luckily, Facebook Marketplace has a lot of this kind of thing. So I found a guy outside of Harrisburg, out in a place called Carlisle, Pennsylvania, that that had some slabs of maple, and I was like, and he was selling for like $10 a piece. And I was like, $10. I said, how long are they? There's, what are the dimensions? Like, well, it's about, 3 or 4 feet and 2 inches by thick, and 18 or 24 inches wide. And I was like, oh, well, I'm interested. So I went to go see him on Sunday, and I got these two for $10 each. Now this is an air dried piece. It turns out it's silver maple, not hard maple. But I think it'll work. Like I think that color will be all right. Now this is different. I think this is different than the Koa. The Koa has been kiln dried. So there's two major ways of drying wood. You can kiln dry them, and you can air dry them. Air drying takes longer, and since he's air drying them outside, so that's why it's got this graying of the exterior side, and there's a slight bow in the board as well. And been out there. He says it's been out there for 2 years, so it should be fairly ready for use. Now, it's like coffee, wood is like coffee in many respects, because you're looking for, in order to use wood, that you want to dry it down to like between 8 to 10%, which is very similar. You don't want 8% coffee, but very similar to coffee in that respect, where, I was like, when they talk about like moisture and wood, I'm like, all right, I get that. 10% moisture, 9% moisture, that's good. Okay, good. Easy enough. So eventually, the idea is that because there's a big bow here, rather than trying to plane it all out, we're just going to split, because it's going to be in pieces, we're going to split the wood somehow, and then this will kind of lay somewhere in there, and that will create the base, the back leg or slab leg for the table. It kind of has the idea kind of is inspired by a guy named George Nakashima, who's a designer here from New Hope, Pennsylvania. And he has these kind of cantilever type of tables. It's kind of playing on that idea. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. Oh, that's water. But I think it'll be heavy. Gosh, it's gonna be heavy. But I think it'll be nice to have, kind of sitting there next to your, lounge chair, right? And you can just kind of set your coffee down, or even use it for brewing coffee. I think it'll be stable enough, because everything's going to be pretty thick, so it'll be stable enough to actually maybe even do AeroPressing on. Kona says, actually, coffee wood is nice and is a hard. Oh, I've heard, I've not seen very much coffee wood used in furniture. I mean, there's a way. Well, I've heard people talk about coffee wood, but isn't coffee wood that they talk about, isn't that different than the actual wood from coffee trees or coffee plants? Is that right? Oh, I missed that comment. Naomi says, how did you use the other table you have made? And was George the guy who was the joinery master? I guess he was I don't know if he was a joinery master per se. I mean, he did do joinery, mostly like handmade mortise and tenons. I was able to see and sit in and get a close-up look at a lot of the details on his furniture, and it's very nicely done. But because says, I harvested some wood from wild coffee trees in the Waianae Mountains. Oh, nice, nice. That's awesome. But yeah, so I'm not sure if he would be considered a joinery master. Even if he like, did he do that really intricate type of Japanese joinery? I don't think he did much of that. At least not that I'm aware of. So Paige is asking, what did you do with this table? Well, I made the table, and it's you know what do tables do? They just kind of sit there. I haven't done too much with this table yet. Like, it just kind of sits in the living room, just kind of, being there. This is actually a design that I got from a YouTuber called Blackwood Decor. I watch a lot of YouTube woodworking videos, and a lot of it's cool. They do a lot of like resin tables, slab tables, river tables, river runs through it kind of tables, and they're cool. And I kind of enjoy, I enjoy watching it and just understanding how they do it. But not too many things that I see on YouTube really are like, oh man, I would like to make that. And then I saw this video, and this guy is a pretty small YouTuber. He's got I think he's got less than 2,000 followers, or maybe he's got more than 2,000 followers now. And I just saw it, and I was like, that's a cool looking table. And he's like, and then I see he was talking about, he's like, it's a beginner's project, and I'm a beginner. And he was like, it's relatively easy to, he lays it out for you and how to do it. Blackwood Decor, if you're interested in seeing the project. And I just thought, that looks cool and easy enough to make, so let me go do it. And as my joinery, I do have something called a domino, which allows you to, the machine that creates joinery. PowerPoint says, I used to have a small city called Iwakuni where they had a famous... Someday I'm going to be able to read this fast enough. Oh, I used to live in a small city. I thought it used to be where they had a famous bridge that was made in the old no-metal style. When the river flooded, the bridge could rise and move downstream. What? The bridge, you're seeing this old wood bridge, when it rained really hard and there was flooding, it would be able to float down the river and then reset itself? That's wild. Okay, that's wild. That's wild. So yeah, it's like Paige said, it's kind of mid-century. This is, I guess, has some cues from mid-century. But definitely George Nakashima, very mid-century. Although it was interesting, I was talking to one of the docents there that knows a lot about his history. And I was like, there are some things that they said during the tour about George Nakashima that was like, made me wonder, is he one of those people? Like for example, and I equate this to myself. This is why I thought it was kind of interesting, is that I came up, I'm a third wave specialty coffee barista. Not because I ascribe to those theories that I see by a lot of my peers, but I realized the fact that I'm from this particular, I entered the business and part of a particular generation of baristas. Therefore, and the world that I've occupied is very third wave specialty coffee. However, it pains me people say that I am. I'm like, oh God, I definitely want to stand apart from those, those guys that are giving you a lot of pretense and a lot of attitude. But she said something, I forgot exactly what it was, but she was like, said some things, and I was like, because currently in modern times, George Nakashima is regarded as one of the masters of mid-century modern craftsmanship. And I said to her, like, so is that to say that had George been alive today and people were calling him the mid-century modern master, like he would hate that? And she's like, yeah, I think he would hate it. And I was like, I totally get that. I was like, I totally understand what he means. So, but it's beautiful work. It's beautiful, beautiful work. Like, I don't know if you saw, I posted about it on my social media. I don't know if I ever mentioned it here on the show, but I made a chair based on a design that his daughter created in 2003 for the Concordia Chamber Players. It's this walnut chair that's designed in a way so that if you're a cellist, you can move and express yourself without the chair being obtrusive or intrusive to your expression. And I just saw that again. It was one of those things where I just saw it online, and I was like, "That looks amazing. I would like to try to make that." And really, it was more as a design, as a study for me to understand, to figure out what I like to make. And basically, what I did is I got some basic dimensions off their website that said that the seat was 17 and a half inches high, and the width was 19 and a half inches wide. It didn't give any height, and I was like, okay, so I'm just going to use those dimensions. And I looked at the photographs that were online, and I used basically a ruler to dimension. So if I knew that this distance on the picture was 17 and a half, then I could extrapolate on the ruler that this distance would be whatever it was, right? And then I tried to calculate it that way. And I finished the chair, and I was able to go see, and of course, now that I'm at Nakashima's on Friday, I'm able to see the real pieces. And it's interesting. You see the actual stuff, the real deal, and you're like, man, I missed a lot. I totally missed some, the seat thickness was definitely thicker, but that was my seat thickness on the chair was not because I didn't do that incorrect. Well, I didn't measure incorrectly. I dimensioned it incorrectly. I totally mucked it up when I was planing the pieces down. So I was kind of forced to thin it out. But the rear, so it's a three-legged chair, and the rear leg that also serves as the backrest. I thought I got that right, and then I saw the real one. And I was like, wow, it's really it's almost twice as thick as the one that I made. And I was like, wow, really? How did you? That's a big slab. So, and then the two front legs, right, on the chair, mine are done like this, so it's very vertical. Whereas there's actually a slight angle to it, so it actually has better stability. Like this table is, if you were to sit on this as a stool, this would be fairly well stable, right? Unless you really try to tilt heavily on one of the facets. But if you were to angle the legs out slightly, maybe 10 degrees or so, it change it. It makes it even more stable. And sitting in the actual Concordia chairs that were at the workshop was like, oh man, I could feel it. I was sitting there, I was like, oh, it is better. Oh. So, yeah, there it is. So how's our Kona? The Kona, like I said, a little bit on the nutty side, some sweetness. It's actually perfectly pleasant. I'm not gonna be rushing to buy it to drink more of it, but it's fine. What can you do? But that's kind of what I was thinking for this idea for this Koa table. The question is when to start. I don't know when I'm going to have the time to start that, but hopefully soon. There's always something that needs to be done that needs attention over fun projects, All right, so I guess that's going to be it for today. I'm waiting for my coffee deliveries. Like we talked about yesterday, coffee has escalated dramatically, but I still got to order, still got to bring it in. So I ordered up yesterday, and I got my notice last night that said, oh, the coffee's on its way. I was like, great. Hopefully it'll be here today, and then we can get some roasting going on and get coffee out to everybody this week. So I guess that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much for hanging out with me. As always, talking about Koa wood and Kona coffee. Hope that was somewhat informative in some way. But back again tomorrow with another episode of the Coffee Q&A. So, yeah. Hope you have a wonderful day out there. And I'm going to come over here now because I can't reach over. And see you next time.